Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video, doing GWV Sunday Round Up for today's second video. So as was on Sunday, we've got your eclectic mix of this and that. So we're looking at things like solar activity, sea surface temperature, anomalies, what's going on with ENSO, and of course the weather for the next week to 10 days and beyond. As well, we're going to start off having a look at some more pictures that were tweeted to us yesterday on our Twitter account. So just to say that the first video up today was the 7th Autumn 2019 Analogues update. That's been an ENSO special looking at autumns that are following El Niños that go to ENSO neutral, and also autumns that are starting off as El Niño and going to La Niña. So that video will be placed on the autumn updates and podcast page, and there will be a written summary goes along with that as well as we get through to this scene. I'll get that up for you around 7-8 o'clock this evening. Right, so let's get on with the video then. It can be quite a long one, so I hope you find it interesting and informative. So this was tweeted to us by Simon's Weather Photography. So 4 of my best from this week's storms in Great Yarmouth through the week. So we've got some pretty intense pictures of lightning there, proper fork lightning out to sea, proper sheet lightning there, and a real big fork lightning bolt just there. So thanks to Simon's Weather Photography for tweeting that one. We've also got UK Weather Central, which is at Max Crazy Storm. This is from Perth on Tuesday night. What a flash of fork lightning that one is. Very, very intense lightning. I hope whether that was striking on the ground is okay. And also got Foxy Weather 123 high at Gavin Partridge. I have some lightning pics you might like from 4 nights ago. So again, pretty intense lightning pictures here from Foxy Weather, especially that one. If you would like to have your pictures featured in the videos, then there are various ways that you can do it. So you can email them to us at gazlovids@gmail.com. You can post them in the comment box at Gazlovids, or you can share them with us on our social media pages, Facebook and Twitter. When we've got the chance, we're always happy to feature your weather pics in the videos. Of course, if you're taking pictures of lightning mode, do stay safe. Take precautions. Lightning can be a very dangerous phenomenon indeed, so just be careful if you're taking pictures of lightning. But if you get a good lightning pic, we're always happy to feature them in videos. Big thank you to everybody for sharing those storm and lightning pictures with us over the past few days. The deluge continues across parts of the country today. There's no lightning and thunder with this, it's just a band of persistent and heavy rain that's been stuck across a central swathe of the country seemingly for days. It's only been since Friday evening, Friday night really, but it's still there, pouring with rain through parts of the Midlands and going up into north and east Wales, over the Irish Sea, and increasingly now in towards Northern Ireland as well. Showers are beginning to break out across parts of Scotland. Don't think there's any thunder in with them. No, there isn't. This band of rain is produced over a couple of inches of rain in some areas, more than that actually in some hillier areas. So really has been very, very wet through this central swathe, and not only wet but also under that persistent area of rain, very cool too. These are our temperatures at the moment. So we are up to 22 degrees there in central Scotland at Tulloch Bridge. But we've got these areas in the rain but are struggling to get into the teens Celsius, actually 13 degrees there at Western Aerodrome, and just 13 degrees at Link up in the North Midlands and across southwest Scotland, where it's also raining, of course. West Row is at 13 degrees. Over in Northern Ireland, Ballypatrick Forest is at just 13 degrees as well. And generally temperatures are suppressed, only sort of mid-teens Celsius for many of us. Pershore, for example, is at 16 degrees, Oxford at 16, even going down into the southeast, Stansted at only 15, Biggin Hill at 15. On the south coast it's a little bit better, Shoreham is at 15, and as we go down towards far southwest, got Yeovilton at 19. So sort of mid to upper teens Celsius where the sun's out at the moment, but where it's pouring with rain still, temperatures are struggling to get into the teens, and it does feel really quite autumnal under that persistent rain. Such a contrast from the heat that we had on Thursday. This rain is generally going to fade a little bit through the course of today, but it will keep on in the northwest, and actually even tomorrow there could be sort of showers. I think that this defined band of rain will break up, but even tomorrow there could be showers out of this band of rain, what we've got now, across parts of southwest Scotland, northwest England. So the rainfall totals will continue to clock up. So this is how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking when we did last week's GWV Sunday Round Up. We've got our 3 areas of interest. Of course, we've got the ENSO region just here through the equatorial Pacific Ocean. We've got the northern Pacific up there, and then we've got the North Atlantic over here. So this is how the oceans were looking last week, during last week's GWV Sunday Round Up. This is the very latest. So dealing with the ENSO region first of all, we have cooled those sea surface temperature anomalies down over the past week a little bit more in the eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. That situation last week, this is situation now. So you can see those sea surface temperature anomalies in the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean are becoming colder, and we are beginning now to get what is almost a defined sort of signature for La Nina, for a cold event. So it does look as though the Pacific Ocean is shifting, the equatorial Pacific Ocean is shifting more and more on a week-by-week basis towards a La Nina signal. Cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies continue to the south of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, sort of underneath it, and particularly cold over towards the coast of Chile. So again, I was explaining in videos before, when these cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies gather around here, it can be a precursor to the equatorial Pacific Ocean, the ENSO region, going colder. So it does look as though, if you go back to last week again, and then go forward to this week, it does look as though the signature of La Nina, of the cold event, is beginning to develop. So we talked about this in the ENSO update, but released on Friday evening. Have a look at that if you want to know a little bit more about all of this. But it looks like the way we're going for this autumn and heading into winter of the 2019-2020, we're going to be going into a weak La Nina. Further north, in the northern part of the Pacific Ocean, it remains much, much warmer than average up there in the northern Pacific Ocean. Again, if you go back to last week and then forwards to this week, you can see that the temperature has perhaps dropped by a degree or so, some of these areas, but still very significantly warmer than average. Over in the Atlantic, and last week's GWV Sunday Roundup, I forgot to talk about the Atlantic. I was rushing to get through the first part of the video last week to get on to the heat wave and thunderstorms, and I forgot to talk about the Atlantic, so let's talk about it now. Again, if we go back to last week, that's how things are looking with the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic last week. This is how things are looking right now, and you can see that it's very warm to the south of Greenland, much, much warmer than average just there. We still have this little colder than average area towards Newfoundland, and then down in the tropical Atlantic, it's near normal to a little bit warmer than average. So we still have this sort of tripole signature where it's warmer up there, where it's cooler just there, and then when it's warmer down here. It's perhaps not a classic tripole, because you would want this colder than average area sort of extend down in towards the eastern seaboard of the States a little bit more. But certainly we have got 3 distinct areas, warmer there, cooler there, and warmer there. So it does look as though we have a bit of a tripole still going on. And particularly to the south of Greenland. Those sea surface temperature anomalies very warm now to the south of Greenland, which is a big change on the last years. I think you've got to go back all the way back to 2012, 2013 for the last time that the sea surface temperature anomalies were as warm as that south of Greenland. So it's been quite cold in that part of the Atlantic for the past few years. So this is a big change on what we've had for any year since 2012, 2013. I suspect we will have a very different Atlantic sea surface temperature anomaly profile for this winter, for winter of 2019, 2020. We'll have a very different Atlantic sea surface temperature anomaly profile this winter compared to what we've had for quite a few winters, actually. So something different could be on the way for this winter. As far as the sea surface temperature anomalies are concerned, closer to the UK, so these are sort of shallower waters, but they are quite warm, and combined, the reason they're quite warm because they have very warm weather, of course, and combined with the warm sea surface temperature anomalies that we have around here, we could be seeing indications that this will pep up low pressure and rainfall a little bit in the next few weeks. So particularly around the UK, if we get layers of low pressure coming in, because the sea surface temperature anomalies are quite warm, that could could pep up the lows a little bit. So we might go into, if we get low pressure coming in, it might be a little bit more vigorous than would normally be the case in August and possibly through to September. And in that case, we would expect maybe some quite heavy bouts of rain and possibly even some strong winds at times too. Through the Mediterranean, looking very warm through there. It's looking warm on average in the Bay of Biscay. This is all reflective of the hot weather that we've been having over the past few weeks. These are shallow waters. They are prone to rapid increases and decreases in sea surface temperatures with the weather conditions. It's always these deeper waters in the middle of the Atlantic and in the middle of the Pacific, these deeper waters that change on a much slower sort of time scales. Right, so let's have a look at the SOI. This is the Southern Oscillation Index from Queensland Government and the Bureau of Meteorology. Remember, the SOI is just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, not driving anything. It just tells us what the atmosphere is doing in the Southern Ocean. When the SOI is negative, then you are in an El Nino type atmospheric setup. When the SOI is positive, then you'll be in a La Nina type atmospheric setup. If we go down to the provisional daily numbers, so we've got the air pressures just here for Tahiti in that column and Darwin in that column. So it's measuring the air pressures between Tahiti and Darwin, and then it creates an index number based on those air pressures. So if we go down to a couple of weeks ago, you can see how very negative numbers of the SOI then, 12th of July, 13th of July, 14th of July, minus 20, minus 19 and minus 26. Those are very negative numbers, and that tells us that the atmospheric setup was strongly reflective of El Nino at that point. The more recent numbers, though, have been far less negative and sometimes going positive. So we've got the 20th of July at minus 2, 21st of July at minus 2 again. 22nd of July goes positive at plus 5. 23rd of July negative, very slight, so at minus 1. So you get the idea. We are still in a weak El Nino atmospheric setup, but nowhere near as strong with that atmospheric setup as far as El Nino is concerned as we was sort of 10 days or a couple of weeks ago. The very latest number is positive again. 26th of July comes out at plus 5.79. So we could well be starting to see a shift in the Southern Oscillation Index now that tells us that the atmosphere might well be moving out of that strong El Nino type setup, that strong El Nino type setup that we had sort of couple of weeks ago, and before that actually it's been in quite a strong El Nino type atmospheric setup for a little while now, but we might be moving out of that and going to something much closer to an ENSO neutral type setup, possibly even starting to shift towards a more La Nina type setup. If the atmosphere starts to move into a La Nina setup, then coupled with what the ocean is doing, we should start to see a La Nina event beginning to take off a little bit. So SOI will be something to keep an eye on, I would have thought, over the next few weeks. Solar activity next. So this is the solar disk on our side of the disk today from solarham.net. We are completely spotless on the solar disk. Once again, there are no sunspots at all. So solar activity, therefore, is at very low levels and reported to stay at very low levels for the next 3 days at least. No sunspots at all. A completely blank and spotless disk. No solar tracker today. It's having a bit of a break, but it will be back for Solar Sunday, but we're hoping to do a week today. So the solar tracker should be back with Solar Sunday in a week's time. We have got this, though, being sent through by a good friend, Richard Trott. So this is depicting the spotless days through this particular solar cycle. So we can see back for 2019, we have currently had 137 days so far this year. That is 66% of the year without any sunspots. It's an increase from 2018. 2018 in total had 221 days without any sunspots, but that was only 61% of the year. That was an increase on 2017, which had 104 days in total without any sunspots. That was only 28% of the year. And this descent in towards solar minimum looks like it began in 2016, when we had only had 32 days without any sunspots. That was just 9% of the year. So you can see how the spotless days have been growing as we've been descending into solar minimum. This looks like we are at true solar minimum really now in 2019, with 66% of the year so far not having any sunspots at all. Of course, around solar maximum, you don't get any days that are spotless. So, for example, 2013 and 2012, no days there in both of those years that didn't have any sunspots, and 2014 just one day that was spotless on the solar disk. So that's what solar around solar maximum looks like when you're at the peak of the solar cycle. You don't get any days that are spotless, and of course solar minimum, you get many days, a majority of the year, where you are spotless. So we're around solar minimum. I think we're going to be staying at a solar minimum, certainly for the next 6 months to a year. And it'll be interesting to see when the next solar cycle number 25, gets underway. The solar tracker will be back for Solar Sunday, which we're going to do hopefully a week today. And a big thank you to Richard for sending that one through. Right, let's move on, and we're going to have a look at the Arctic and North Atlantic oscillations next. So this is the Arctic oscillation observed and forecast chart. The black line shows where we've been with the Arctic oscillation. The red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. And you can see that we've been in a negative phase of the AO. Of course, most of this summer we have had considerable amounts of northern blocking over the Arctic and around Greenland, especially back in June, of course, when we had that deluge of rain during the second week of June. That was partly, at least, caused by northern blocking over Greenland and the Arctic, sending the jet stream southwards and bringing in deep areas of low pressure. We're negative still with the Arctic oscillation. That's where we are right now. GFS ensembles are forecasted, certainly for the next week to 10 days, we're going to stay negative with the AO. Possibly signs it's moving back towards neutral in the extended range, so going into the second week of August. But of course, that is very extended range stuff. It's unreliable. And in the reliable time frame of the GFS and its ensembles, it looks like we're going to keep quite considerable amounts of northern blocking going over the Arctic, going through to the first week of June, anyway, possibly even lasting to the second week of June. NAO, observed and forecast, is looking like this. Again, black line shows where we've been with the North Atlantic oscillation. Red line's at the end where GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. Now, we have had such a long negative phase of the NAO started in the third week of April, carried on through the whole of May and the whole of June. Both of those 2 months were negative, and even into the first half of July as well. We have the NAO in negative territory, but just for a day or so, over the past few days, we have clawed our way up to slightly positive. But we did claw our way up to slightly positive with the NAO, coinciding, interestingly, with the very hot weather that we had a few days ago. But we're back negative again with the NAO now, and the GFS ensembles are forecasting that we're going to stay negative right way through to the second week of August. So, although there was that very slight recovery in the NAO a few days ago, the long-term trend obviously is still negative. The NAO is still in its negative phase, and it looks like it's going to be staying that way through to the second week of August. This is definitely going to be classed as a negative AO and NAO type summer, given that we've probably done quite well if you like dry and warm weather, because in summer a negative AO NAO combination. Remember, this is just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, but when the AO is negative, you're going to have northern blocking. When the NAO is negative, you're going to have high pressure around Iceland, so that connects back to the northern blocking. When you have high pressure around Iceland and low pressure through the Azores. When the NAO is positive, you'll have low pressure on Iceland, high pressure through the Azores, and that's kind of like the default setup. But anyway, when the AO and the NAO are negative in the summer, it's usually a cool, wet signal. Usually a cool, wet signal for us in the north and the west of Europe. So to get the sort of hot weather that we had a few days ago, and generally for southern parts of the country anyway, I accept it's not been a very good summer in the north, but down in the south, most of July has actually been quite dry and warm, and I think if you like that kind of summer weather, you've been very, very lucky this year. Most summers that have a negative AO-NAO combination are not warm, dry summers. And at any point, I think, with the AO and the NAO being negative going into August, at any point, we could start to see a rapid deterioration in the weather pattern, actually. So at any point, we might start bringing deep areas of low pressure and start turning cool and wet. That's perhaps the way things will go through the early part of August. We shall have to wait and see. But if you like your summers warm and dry, we have had warm, dry weather through a lot of July down in the south. I think you've been very, very lucky this summer, the way that's worked out, because it wouldn't normally be the case. Right, so let's have a look at the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're in Manchester today, so the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Manchester. You can see we're very close to average at the moment, and essentially the GFS ensembles are keeping us around average with the upper air temperatures in Manchester for the next couple of weeks. There might be signs of a little bit of a warm-up going on around there. That's going from sort of first week to second week of August, but that's quite a long way out. It's quite a modest warm-up anyway, compared to what we've had recently. Just looks as though the temperatures are going to be quite close to average, but more dramatic is the precipitation. So this is today's deluge, of course, that's affected many northwestern parts of England. More wet weather to come from Monday into Tuesday, and then after that just plenty of precipitation taking us through the first week and into the second week of August. We could be going into a more unsettled and cooler period of weather compared to what we've had anyway in July so far. Temperature anomalies from the 28th of July to the 5th of August, very close to or slightly above average, but it's not a big deviation. It's very close to average, really, with the temperature anomaly. Precipitation anomalies look a bit wetter than average, particularly so for northwestern parts of England, interestingly, so that would include Manchester, of course, but most parts of the UK actually coming out with slightly above average rainfall from the 28th of July to 5th of August. It's a little bit drier for Northern Ireland and the far northwest of Scotland, interestingly. But overall, pretty wet in the week ahead. precipitation temperature anomaly for America looks like that. So a proper east-west split. Eastern parts of the states continue to look pretty cool. They've had a cool summer really through the Midwest and into the east of the states. That carries on for the next week. Much hotter out in the west. So western parts of the states looking very, very hot there, especially so down in the southwest, so kind of like California, Nevada, those sort of areas look like they're very hot. But in the east, a little bit cooler than average. Precipitation for America, very dry in the west, so hot and dry across the western parts of the states. Otherwise, it varies from area to area, but I think more parts of America at the moment are a bit drier than average than the states that are a bit wetter than average. I've got wet weather coming up over the next few days. These are the facts charts. So this will be human interpretation of models by forecasters at the UK Met. So this is fact chart for midday tomorrow. It's this area of low pressure that we're looking at down here that is going to be developing to our south and southwest through tomorrow, pushing northwards into the country late tomorrow. This is midnight Tuesday. Here comes the low pressure just off the north coast of France, sending its weather fronts north. So there's going to be a band of very heavy rain on this occluded front just here. And then behind it, we'll have heavy showers or thunderstorms moving up from the south, I think, through the course of Tuesday itself. That is the very, very unsettled looking facts chart for midday on Tuesday. Look at that big area of low pressure centred over the top of England and Wales. The persistent band of rain getting in towards northern England, Northern Ireland by that point. And then the wrap around here, around this area of low pressure with these occluded fronts, that's likely to produce heavy showers, possibly even big thunderstorms as well. So Tuesday looks like it could be really quite a wet day indeed. That low pressure is still across the country, although it's filling out, not as deep, but it's still across the country even to midnight on Wednesday. After that, the second half of the week should turn a little bit dry, but there will still be showers around. But certainly late Monday through Tuesday into Wednesday, we've got to watch out for a band of heavy rain. Initially, strong winds associated with that too. Not sure how strong winds will get yet, but they could be very strong down in the southwest. And then once that heavy rain pushes northwards, heavy showers and storms potentially down in the south on Tuesday afternoon. So there's going to be a lot of weather going on in the next few days. This is for GFS for Wednesday, so I'll have a look at that. And there's a low pressure there. By that point, it is starting to fill out. It's not as deep, but the low pressure is still over top of the country on Wednesday and will still be producing heavy showers, potentially thunderstorms too. Into the second half of the week, we get a little bit of a ridge building across the country. Notice it is connected to northern blocking though, so the main centre of the high pressure is up here around Greenland and into the Norwegian Sea. But the ridge is extending down through the country, so the emphasis in the second half of the week will shift towards drier conditions, although there will still be showers around. Temperatures probably mid-20s in the sunshine, so pleasantly warm, but certainly not particularly hot. And then as we go into next weekend and through to the following week, it starts to get a bit more unsettled again, with low pressure coming back in. Heading up towards day 10, that's how we're looking. Winds actually turning to the north, so start to bring down some quite cool air from the north around day 10, which is Wednesday the 7th of August. Probably still with showers too. And in the more extended range with this particular GFS run, it starts to turn very unsettled as well. So it's all going wrong really for August there. Low pressure is well and truly in control through the second week of the month, bringing about quite a lot of rain. The first week of the month, there will be dry and warm weather at times. But even then, never totally settled. So how the GEM is looking, again, we've got that low pressure across the top of the country on Wednesday, filling out from where it is on Tuesday. But nevertheless, it will still be enough to bring quite big showers. Look at all the northern blocking that we've got sitting to our north again as well. Through to the second half of the week, there's that ridge beginning to build across the country. That will bring drier and warmer conditions. The second half of the week, temperatures going to around the middle 20 Celsius, so around 25, maybe 26. So that's around 77, 79 Fahrenheit. It will be quite warm at the end of the week. But not totally settled. There will still be some showers breaking out. Into next weekend, that ridge beginning to weaken, but still just about holding on, actually, as we move up towards day 10, although by day 10 it does look as though it is starting to turn more unsettled. Not sure if that low pressure there has tropical elements in it. Let's go back and see where it starts. So it starts just here. Perhaps it has some tropical elements in it, so maybe we should be looking out for some sort of tropical storm to develop in the tropical Atlantic over the next few days. We shall see. But anyway, by Wednesday, the 7th of August, day 10, quite a deep area of low pressure in the North Atlantic, and it looks like that would be perhaps starting to head our way. This is how the ECM is looking. So again, there's that low over top of the country on Wednesday. That brings heavy showers or thunderstorms. That low clears out of the way through the second half of the week. This ridge starting to build to the north in particular, but it does send the ridge down into the UK, so things will settle down a little bit at the end of the week and warm up slightly too. Through to next weekend, so the ridge gradually weakening, low pressure beginning to bring rain back into the west by Sunday, and then into the more extended range with the ECM. Looks like it's turning more unsettled once again. There's that little low as well just there. Again, not sure if there's tropical elements within that. I have to have a look at the northern hemispheric view, see if there's any tropical storms being forecast to develop over the next week or so. But anyway, by day 10 it looks like we're beginning to go into a more unsettled type pattern on the ECM as well. So perhaps a bit drier and warmer at the end of the coming week and into next weekend for a time, but it looks like the trend really for August is still quite unsettled. CFS V2 looking like this. These are 500 millibar heights breaking down to weekly periods. The first week period takes us from the 28th of July to the 3rd of August. Big northern blocking again to our north. Lots of high pressure sitting to the north of the country, low pressure to the south. So it implies that, particularly in southern parts of the country, you may be bringing some unsettled weather in at times. More unsettled through week 2, though. This is the 4th to the 10th of August. Low pressure then centred over or just to our west. Still high pressure up towards Greenland. That looks like the Atlantic is unleashed a little bit there. That could be very unsettled. Lots of heavy rain with that. Week 3 isn't much better. This is the 11th to the 17th of August. Low pressure through the country like that. Through the country as well, so that looks very unsettled. Up to mid-August and even up to week 4. Look at this, the northern blocking is still there over Greenland and up into the Arctic. Low pressure is over the UK as a trough within the 500 millibar flow really. Jet streams doing something like that. So it looks very, very unsettled now for August with the CFS. The CFS is really going to town on a very unsettled August. This is the latest 700 millibar height anomaly forecast for August from the CFS. If you want a warm, dry August, that's about as bad as it gets, actually. Look at the northern blocking it's got over Greenland. Deep trough of low pressure is centred over the top of the UK. It also extends into northern Europe as well. So a very, you would expect probably a very cool and wet August based on that anomaly. As I said when I was talking about the AO and the NAO, at any point with the AO and NAO being in their negative phases in summer, at any point we could go into a very wet and quite cool spell of weather. This might be it. It might be. As I say, I've been very, very lucky to get what dry and warm weather we have had this summer. There's been quite a bit of it down in the south, less so up in the north. So just keep that in mind that we've been quite lucky with what we've had with this summer so far, but at any point it could all go very rapidly downhill. And it might be about to. This other temperature anomaly is looking for August with CFS very close to average, but I would suspect actually a cooler than average month would be favoured, and a wetter than average signal as well now, above average precipitation on this particular update from the CFS for August. So it is all shaping up to be a bit grim for August at the moment, but it might be the models are going over top with this unsettled signal. We should wait and see. Certainly the first week of August doesn't look necessarily that wet. There could be a reasonable amount of dry and warmish weather the second week, in the first week of August, but by the second week, things could be deteriorating. I thought we'd just finish with this. This is the Beijing Climate Center 500 millibar height anomaly for the winter of 2019-2020. This is very extended range stuff, of course, but it's going for quite an anticyclonic winter at the moment, with above average heights close to the UK and also going up into the northern Atlantic as well. So it should be probably dry weather through the winter if that was to come off. This is how the month by month 500 millibar heights are looking. So this is December, has above average heights through the North Atlantic and into the UK and much of northern and central Europe. Low pressure is down here. That's almost quite close to being fairly cold. If the high pressure is a bit further north, then we would bring in easterly winds. As it is, we're probably bringing in sort of southeasterlies to southerlies, so probably fairly dry and reasonably mild. That's January. Looks quite interesting. It has a big area of blocking up towards Greenland. So it's a job to make out where we are on these charts, but I tell you, just there, UK Island is just there. So it's got blocking over Greenland with a trough underneath it, trough of low pressure underneath it. So that's almost a cold January, but just not quite. We're still bringing in west-south westerlies, but a very subtle adjustment to that would start to turn us much colder. And then that's February. It has high pressure centred over the top of the country in February. So just a dry, quiet, probably relatively mild month. So it's seeing quite an anticyclonic winter at the moment, Beijing Climate Center. Of course, it's a very long way out from winter. And if it's got the placement of those ridges a little bit out, if they're further north, with more of an easterly influence, then things could start to get a bit more interesting. So January is very close to being a cold winter pattern, but just not quite right. Anyway, that's just a bit of fun. It's so far out, it's not worth worrying about, but I thought I'd show you what Beijing Climate Center is forecasting for the winter at the moment. Right, so that's it, guys, for this Sunday Roundup. Hope you found it interesting and informative. Don't forget to check out those autumn analogues. That video will be placed on the autumn updates page with a written summary going over everything that we discussed in the video, probably around 7 or 8 o'clock this evening. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.